Have you ever wondered why she never texts you first, yet she never disappears either? She replies, but she won't initiate. She stays in your life, but never steps forward. For most men, that pattern feels confusing, frustrating, almost like a puzzle they can't solve. But what if her silence isn't random at all? What if it's telling you something about her mindset and something even more important about yours? The truth is, when a woman never reaches out first, she's revealing a dynamic most men completely miss. And unless you respond the right way, you'll keep chasing while she keeps drifting. Today, I'm giving you the 6 things you must do when she never takes the first step. 6 shifts that flip the power balance, expose her real intentions, and put you back in control. Before we move forward, pause for a second and be honest with yourself. How many times have you minimized your own needs just to keep a connection alive? How often have you carried the weight of the effort because it felt safer than facing the possibility that she's not equally invested? This moment right here is where you stop running from the truth and start taking ownership of how you show up in relationships. If you're ready to do that work, hit like and subscribe, because this isn't just advice, it's a reset button. Now let's talk about the first shift you need to make if you want to change this pattern for good. Number 1, stop rewarding her silence. When a woman never reaches out first, most men make the exact same mistake. They try to fill the silence for her. They assume that if they just give a little more, try a little harder, or stay consistent long enough, she'll eventually reciprocate. But what actually happens is the opposite. The more you compensate for her lack of effort, the more you signal that she doesn't need to try at all. And whether you realize it or not, you're training her, teaching her that your presence requires nothing from her. No intention, no investment, no initiation. Picture this for a moment. A man wakes up, checks his phone, and sees nothing from her. Not even a simple morning. His chest tightens a little, so he decides to start things off himself. Good morning, she responds later, dry, minimal, predictable. The next day, the same thing happens. And the day after that, before long, he has built a routine where she contributes nothing. Yet, she still gets the comfort of knowing he'll appear on schedule like a daily notification. She doesn't have to move toward him because she knows he'll always take the first step. Every time you respond to silence with more effort, you make your attention less rare, less meaningful, and less valuable. Human beings don't appreciate what they don't have to work for. That's not cynicism. It's psychology. When something is always available, it stops feeling special. When something asks for nothing, it earns nothing in return. This is why the first shift starts with restraint, not reaction. Don't text because the silence makes you uneasy. Don't call because you're afraid of losing connection. Don't check in just to reassure yourself that she still cares. Let the silence exist. Let the space breathe. Let her feel the absence of what she has grown used to receiving without effort. You're not punishing her. You're protecting yourself. You're preserving the value of your presence instead of handing it out like a clearance sale. Your attention is a currency, and when you spend it freely on someone who hasn't paid anything into the connection, you bankrupt its worth. Here's the truth. Most men never learn. Silence only gains power when you stop trying to fix it. When you stop covering it with texts and calls, it becomes noticeable. It becomes meaningful. It becomes a mirror showing whether she cares enough to step forward or whether she was always content letting you carry everything. Silence only makes noise when you stop covering it with your effort. Number 2, match her energy. Most men don't lose a woman because they're too kind or too genuine. They lose her because the dynamic slowly tilts out of balance, and they keep giving long after she has stopped meeting them halfway. Attraction needs reciprocity. Connection needs rhythm, and when one person is sprinting while the other is barely walking, the gap doesn't stay emotional. It becomes visible. Picture this. A man sends 4 texts throughout the day, little check-ins, updates, jokes he hopes will land. Hours pass. She might respond once, maybe twice if he's lucky. Short replies, no questions back, no effort. But instead of noticing the imbalance, he convinces himself he just needs to stay consistent. show interest, or prove he's different, so he doubles down. He thinks effort will inspire effort, but what she feels isn't inspiration. It's pressure, it's one sided pursuit. It's the kind of energy that doesn't pull a woman closer, it makes her lean away. Overcompensation doesn't come from strength, it comes from fear. Fear of losing her, fear of being forgotten, fear that if he stops trying, she'll disappear. And that fear is exactly what turns his good intentions into neediness. Women are incredibly intuitive. They can feel when a man is pursuing from confidence and when he's pursuing from insecurity, and nothing dilutes attraction faster than a man who tries to earn what should come naturally. Think of connection like a dance. It's not about one person taking all the steps. It's about movement meeting movement. If one partner carries all the rhythm, all the coordination, all the effort, it's not a dance anymore. It's someone trying to drag another person across the floor. That's what happens when you give more than you receive. It stops being connection and becomes emotional labor. The shift you need to make is simple but powerful. Mirror her investment. If she texts with intention, respond with the same warmth. If she calls and plans, meet her there. But if she goes quiet, you don't break the silence just to keep the illusion alive. You don't chase her shadow. You don't try to revive something she's not feeding. Matching her energy is not about being cold. It's not about playing games. It's about standing tall in your own dignity and allowing her to reveal her true interest without you carrying the entire weight. When a woman feels that balanced push and pull, something changes. If she's genuinely interested, she leans in. She starts matching you back. But if she's not, her lack of investment becomes unmistakable. And that clarity is a gift, not a loss. Matching energy isn't distance, it's dignity. Number 3, reclaim your emotional control. There's a moment almost every man knows too well. The quiet pause after you hit send when you're waiting for her reply, like your whole day hangs on that tiny gray bubble. You check your phone every few minutes. You tell yourself you're not anxious, but your mood says otherwise. If she responds quickly, you feel relieved, even energized. If she takes hours or doesn't reply at all, the tension creeps in. Suddenly, your emotions aren't yours anymore. They're in her hands, tied to her timing, regulated by her attention. This is the trap. When your emotional state rises and falls based on whether she texts back, you've handed her a level of power she never asked for. Power over your peace, your confidence, your sense of stability. And here's what most men don't realize. That shift doesn't stay hidden. Women feel it. They can sense the subtle anxiety in your tone, the slight urgency behind every message, the unspoken hope that she'll validate you with a few typed words. And the moment a woman senses that her approval is the center of your emotional world, something changes. Attraction fades, respect slips, not because she's cruel, but because dependence never feels like strength. Picture a man sitting at his desk pretending to work. His phone lights up, only a notification from an app, not her. His chest drops a little. He puts the phone down only to pick it up again 2 minutes later. He tells himself he just wants to check something, but really he's checking her. The worst part, he knows he's doing it, and yet he can't stop. He feels controlled by the silence owned by the uncertainty. But the truth, your truth, is this. Her reply is information, not validation. It tells you how invested she is, not how valuable you are. And the moment you internalize that, everything shifts. Regaining emotional control isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about redirecting your attention back to yourself, your work, your body, your goals, your friendships, your life. It's about refusing to let a notification dictate your mood. It's about remembering that your time and energy have weight and your emotions deserve to be in your hands, not someone else's. When you stop obsessing over her replies, something subtle but powerful happens. You stand taller. You move slower. Your mind feels clearer. And ironically, that's when women start to lean in because you're no longer the man pacing around his phone. You're the man grounded in himself, unshaken by silence, unattached to outcome. Control your emotions, or they will control how she sees you. Number 4, Let absence do the work. Most men believe they lose a woman by pulling back. The truth is, they often lose her because they never do. When you're always available, always texting, always checking in, always standing by like an emotional emergency exit, she never gets the chance to actually feel your presence. And if she can't feel your presence, she'll never feel your absence. Without absence, there is no contrast. Without contrast, there is no value. Think about your favorite food. If you had it every single day, no matter how much you loved it at first, something would shift. It wouldn't hit the same. It wouldn't feel special. Not because the food changed, but because the frequency did. Too much presence kills appreciation. And the same principle applies to attention, effort, and emotional availability. Overexposure dulls desire. Now imagine a man who showers a woman with constant messages, constant updates, constant reassurance. He thinks he's nurturing the connection. He thinks he's building closeness. But what he's really doing is flooding the space, leaving her no room to reach back, no room to wonder, no room to feel anything except mild overwhelm or quiet indifference. She doesn't have time to miss him. She doesn't have space to crave him. He's there before she ever has the chance to notice he was gone. Absence works because it creates clarity. When you stop over-delivering, her real level of interest rises to the surface. If she values you, she'll move toward you. She'll check in. She'll initiate. She'll step forward into the space you've opened. But if she doesn't, her silence will grow. Not because you caused it, but because you finally stopped covering it. Letting absence do the work is not a strategy to manipulate her. It's a strategy to free yourself. You're not threatening her with withdrawal. You're simply returning to a healthy baseline, one where your energy isn't poured into someone who isn't pouring anything back. You're stepping out of the role of the one who always tries and into the role of the man who pays attention to effort. And here's the part most men never see coming. When you stop flooding her with attention, she starts to feel the shifts inside herself. She notices the missing good morning text. She wonders why you're not available like before. She feels the difference, not because you punished her, but because you stopped cushioning her lack of investment. Absence doesn't push the right woman away, it reveals her. It shows you whether she cares to meet you in the middle or whether she was only comfortable with you doing all the work. She can't miss what never leaves. Give her something to miss. Number 5, test her interest. There's a particular kind of confusion that traps a lot of men. The situation where she never initiates, but she always responds. Not enthusiastically, not with effort, but enough to keep you guessing, enough to keep you hoping. And because she doesn't fully disappear, you tell yourself there's something there. So you keep carrying the momentum. You keep being the one who reaches out first, who keeps the conversations alive, who makes the plans, and the entire time you're left wondering whether she's interested or just entertained. This is where clarity becomes essential. When someone gives mixed signals, the worst thing you can do is keep filling the gaps for them. Because as long as you compensate for her low effort, you'll never know her real level of investment. She doesn't need to show it. She doesn't need to try. You've made the connection too easy to coast on. Picture a man who sends her the same good morning text every day. It's practically part of her routine. Now, some days she answers, some days she doesn't. Some days she replies hours later with a short, emotionless message. And yet, he keeps doing it because he's afraid that if he stops, she'll drift away. What he doesn't realize is this. If something fades the moment you stop carrying it, it was never real to begin with. Testing her interest doesn't mean playing games or manipulating her. It means creating an opportunity for her to show up. It means removing yourself just enough so you can see what happens when you're not doing all the work. Stop being the first to text. Stop being the one who always follows up. Stop being the only person investing energy into the connection. Step back, not dramatically, not with attitude, but with intention. Then observe. Does she close the distance? Does she notice the shift? Does she reach out, check on you, ask to see you? Or does she let the silence sit comfortably, like it doesn't cost her anything at all? The beauty of this approach is that it exposes the truth without a single confrontation. Her actions will answer the question you keep avoiding. If she cares, she'll show it. If she doesn't, she'll stay quiet. And that silence is your clarity, not your failure. You're not losing her. You're losing the illusion that she's invested. If the connection only exists when you carry it, you're not in a relationship. You're in her performance. Let her actions reveal what her words never will. Number 6, raise your standards. There comes a point where the problem is no longer her silence, her inconsistency, or her lack of effort. The problem becomes the standards you've allowed yourself to settle for. When you keep holding on to a woman who gives you nothing back, you're not acting out of love. You're acting out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear that this might be the best you can get. And those fears quietly convince you to accept crumbs and call them a connection. Picture a man who keeps a woman in his life even though her investment is zero. She doesn't initiate, she doesn't plan, she doesn't show excitement, but she responds just enough to keep him around. He tells himself maybe she just needs time, or maybe she's not good at texting, or maybe she's dealing with something. He builds explanations to protect his hope instead of protecting his self-respect. And because he's afraid of losing her, he never asks what he's losing by keeping her. Here's the truth most men avoid. A man without standards becomes a man without options. When you tolerate neglect, you train yourself to believe that this is all you deserve. You shrink your world to fit her indifference. And the longer you stay in that dynamic, the more you convince yourself that her bare minimum is a privilege rather than an insult. Raising your standards is not about becoming harsh or demanding. It's about becoming honest with yourself first. It's acknowledging when someone isn't meeting you halfway. It's recognizing when you're the only one investing. It's accepting when the connection is only alive because you keep giving it CPR. And instead of clinging to potential, it's choosing to value your peace more than the fantasy you're holding on to. Your standards are the filter that determines who gets access to you. When you raise them, something powerful happens. The wrong women fall away, and the right ones step forward effortlessly. Women who genuinely value you don't make you guess. They don't leave you hanging. They don't ask you to prove your worth through endless effort. They bring reciprocity naturally because they see your value immediately. Your worth isn't measured by how long you can hold on to someone. It's measured by how willing you are to walk away when you're not valued. A woman shouldn't have to be convinced to care. She shouldn't need to be chased into investing, and you shouldn't build your identity around someone who barely shows up. If she brings nothing, she gets nothing. Not out of revenge, but out of respect, self-respect. When you raise your standards, you don't lose women, you lose the wrong ones. You've just walked through a journey that most men never take because it forces you to confront the part of yourself that would rather chase silence than choose self-respect. And if you've made it to this point, understand something. You're already ahead of the version of you who used to sit by the phone waiting for a message that never came. What you've done here isn't about fixing her behavior. It's about understanding your own. You've seen what happens when you stop rewarding silence. When you match her energy instead of drowning her in yours, when you take back control of the emotions you once handed away too easily. You've seen how absence creates clarity and how testing her effort reveals the truth you've been tiptoeing around. And finally, you've seen why your standards aren't just guidelines. They're the foundation of your worth. The point of all this isn't to win a woman back. It's to win yourself back. Because the moment you stop letting someone else's inconsistency dictate your confidence, you become a different kind of man. The kind who doesn't beg for space, who doesn't audition for attention, who doesn't mistake crumbs for connection. You become the man who understands that value isn't something you chase, it's something you embody. And here's the shift that matters most. Her silence no longer threatens you, it informs you. It tells you where she stands so you can decide where you stand. You stop trying to fix what isn't broken and stop forcing what was never mutual. You stop clinging to potential and start choosing reality. And in that reality, you finally see that the right woman doesn't need to be convinced to care. She shows it naturally, consistently, willingly. You're not here to beg for space in someone's life. You're here to show up as a man who knows his worth. Her effort doesn't define your value, your standards do. And if what you heard today made you pause even for a second, good. That pause is growth. That pause is awareness, and that awareness is the first step toward becoming the man you were supposed to be. If you want to keep walking that path, hit subscribe. Don't miss the principles that will help you stay grounded, confident, and intentional in every connection you build. And if you've ever dealt with a woman who never reached out first, drop your story in the comments. I want to hear it.